Welcome home. It's good to see you again. Thanks for being here. This is chapter 4 in the series of Know Your Enemy, Reframing PTSD. As I took this picture out in the woods, I'd set it up in the morning and waited all day for the sunlight to come through just right so there'd be no shadows. Near the evening, I took this picture where it represents what I was trying to show, light. For light surely brings us hope. And just like this tree, it had been dead for a couple of years, it was affecting the other trees around it. So it is with us, with trapped emotions. As you can see, I've got specific tools here for that job. So it is with releasing trapped emotions. Would I want to use this hammer driving that wedge, splitting wood? Probably not. Someday I'll tell you the story of the infamous rocket. And likewise, by the same token, would I want to use this hammer? Try to put a small nail into the wall with a picture frame? Probably not. Specific tools for a specific job. I want to introduce to you virtually 2 sledgehammers against trapped emotions. One, EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, and the other, the Emotional Code. Even the word sledgehammer denotes tremendous power. The EFT using acupressure and focused thought to neutralize and rid one of trapped emotions. The other, the Emotional Code, using kinesiology or muscle testing and the power of magnetism. I know, lighting. Just a couple of things before we move into the next chapter this is actually finishing up from chapter 3. I hope you took the time to watch that. As we talked about positive and negative, it takes energy, it takes work, if you will, to be over on this side of the fence. Whereas negativity, most of us can gravitate there without any effort at all. Remember, positive and negative, they can't exist at the same time. It's estimated that 70% of our thought process is negative. The inner war is apparent here, because where we choose to be is where we'll be inside. And on that inner war, not only is it apparent here, but you can see it visually, the opposites. One of my favorite stories told to me by the Native American ways, as a grandfather was trying to explain the inner war to a grandchild, explaining the war that can be between us, between good and evil, using the good and evil in perspective or example of wolves. As he's explaining that, the grandchild looks up at him and says, "Grandfather, but which wolf will win?" His profound answer, "I've never forgotten. The one you feed." For in the inner war, the good and the evil, the one that we feed is the one that will be prominent. As a test, that you're going through a normal day and you get a negative thought, just tap your wrist a little bit lightly, but just to remind yourself that you're in a negative thought and keep track of it, almost like a mental log, and see how often that we drift back to the negative on almost anything. So these 2 very powerful techniques release trapped emotions. You can actually put them in the realms of energy healing. Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT, using acupressure, not using needles, but tapping on the acupressure points and focused thought, And in my opinion, as you add to that, in the dialogue that you'll be using to yourself, talking to the subconscious, I really believe in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And those that are wise in it, you'll see that they use it. You can use EFT on everything, except as I talked about in an earlier, anything to do with the repentance process. Things that you've done wrong that you need to address with your Father in heaven, I wouldn't use EFT on. That's a whole different process. I talked to you about it in an earlier chapter. Repentance is for us. It's not a punishment. So yeah, anything else but that, this will work for. The Incredible Emotional Code, Dr. Bradley Nelson. I've only had the honor of meeting him once. What an incredible human being. That's using kinesiology or muscle testing to go through and sort out those emotions, and then to clear them using magnetism over the grand meridian for releasing trapped emotions. We'll cover that, in the next chapter. I'm trying to make these chapters shorter. That'll be the next chapter, Dr. Bradley Nelson's Emotional Code. We're back here on EFT. This book was actually the result of a small convention that was done in March of 2008 in San Francisco, California. So there was 11 participants, ranging in ages from 26 to 61. They'd been in the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the war in Iraq. Yeah, read a couple excerpts. Normally I wouldn't do that. Let me read from their own words. I've left their names out, but this is directly from this book. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I suffer from PTSD. At the VA, I was diagnosed as bipolar and manic depressive. I have nightmares. I've spent since 1997 in hospitals and institutions. I take meds for bipolar. It's hard to get an alternative treatment at the VA. My world wasn't great. Everything in my life was a major challenge. When I came to the EFT event, I had no clue what I was walking into. I had never been to the West Coast, and I hate flying. One of my Vietnam War memories included an enemy attack where I had to pull bodies out of the rubble. I talked about it at the EFT event, and the intensity was so bad, I had to leave the room because I felt like I was going to puke. Now that EFT has been done on it, I can think about the same incident with little or no intensity. It is no longer part of my dreams. That's the kind of freedom I thought I never would have. Other war memories faded as well. The event was outstanding. I've been doing EFT ever since. The changes in my life are 100% totally different. Once you start EFT, it's a totally different way to handle things. Everything like sleep and nightmares and suicidal thoughts all come into place where total turnarounds happen. I can't explain it. I want to help other veterans get this stuff. Let me quickly go one more short. This is from a man's wife. It was also, their families were at the event. How do you help a stubborn ex-Marine who suffers from PTSD? PTSD, sound familiar? For more than 4 years, I tried to find help for my husband on how to handle life with PTSD, but with no success in finding anything except medications that didn't work. I was at the point where I had no energy left, was exhausted, and saw no end in sight. PTSD was destroying our marriage. I felt that I had tried everything, but things kept getting worse. When I mentioned to my best friend I was going to file for a divorce, she suggested giving EFT a try. She had mentioned it before, and I kept thinking, yeah, right. He's going to laugh at me once I tell him somebody's going to tap on his body and make him feel better. He now sleeps better, stays calm, no longer has anger outbursts, is much more patient. Her conclusion? I cannot thank EFT enough for what it's done for us. It literally saved our marriage. I fell in love with my husband again. He is now the person he used to be, the man I fell in love with when I first met him. Even though it may take a while for him to completely recover, at least I see now that there is light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I'm hoping to bring to you. EFT is real. It's the best $14.95 I ever spent. It'll be money well spent. You'll see it online. I have links to it when you look down to see more in the description box. But be careful, as you look online in different places, you can see the gouges. And this one's by Dr. Gary Craig. I see some other versions, same picture on the front. And I'll show you some websites. But look carefully at which one you press. Don't pay more than $14 for the book. I even see them used for less. This is a picture of Dr. Gary Craig. I was first brought to my attention about him over 20 years ago by James DeMille. Joe, as we refer to him, the Grand Master of Wing Chun Do. And he told us all about it. I was very excited about it, and I just got sidetracked with life. I was overseas at the time and just never got back to it. But I marvel at this man. He's given away all his years of research, all that he's given to humanity. I'm grateful for him and the techniques. So I first started looking at acupuncture years ago. A wise man named Benjamin Chang from the Bellingham area. I've learned a lot from him. So I started collecting literature on it, and I've learned much on it. But instead of sticking needles in there, you can tap on those same regions. For thousands of years, not only the Chinese, but other disciplines have mapped out the energy systems in our body. Just a quick example, I'd gone in there, I had neck surgery they were going to do. So somebody said, well, why don't you try acupuncture first? So I did, found Benjamin. This hand, my left, was so numb that it hurt painfully, if that makes sense. And I'll never forget, he had a bunch of needles all over me, but he stuck some in this hand, my right hand. This one was instantly better. They're sticking out about this far from my fingers. And I laughed and I said, can't you just leave them in there? It worked that well. So after many sessions, I was completely turned around my life. I believe in acupuncture and acupressure. So there's a legacy that's in the cover of this book. There's a genealogy, as you would. I've already talked about the ancient physicians who for many years have mapped these things. But I surely want to give credit to Dr. George Goodhart, who developed applied kinesiology or muscle testing. We'll go through that in the next chapter too. I really believe in muscle testing, trying to find out from the body knowledge there that it's trying to give to us. And then Dr. John Diamond, in 1990, he wrote several books using meridians to unlock emotions. They're very good books, by the way. I didn't put everything in here. I was running out of room. And nextly, Dr. Roger Callahan, who originally introduced Dr. Gary Craig to me. He's going on Dr. Gary Craig to emotional acupressure, or TFT as he called it, thought field therapy, in the 1890s. And Adrian Fowley introduced Dr. Gary Craig to meridian tapping and actually helped develop EFT with him. Go to these websites. I'll have a link down below. You look in the description box. Remember to push see more and or show more, and it will bring these up. I'll have direct links to them. Go to them. There's tremendous amounts of information in both of these. Which leads me to the incredible Brad Yates. I've only met him once too. He's on my wish list to see again. So Dr. Gary Craig gave to the world all these techniques and different people. He studied with him in many of the seminars and developed his side of it. He's very, very good. He's prolific on YouTube, hundreds and hundreds, 600 to 800 of them. I don't know how many are still posted. But I want you to go to, and I'll have that in the next slide, tap where he's tapping. When he's tapping a place on his forehead or head or anywhere, I want you to tap in the same place and say the same verbiage that he's saying. At the same time, his videos are only about 5 minutes long. I'm trying to lead you to experts in their field. They're far better than I am at this. I personally use EFT in my life, but go to the pros to see the exactness thereof it. So I'll go to the intro where he explains a little more. It's not very long on EFT. So just go to your search engine, go to YouTube, put in intro to EFT, tapping with Brad Yates. And then once you see that, it'll be a better description than this short video. Go to his websites. This one, Tap with Brad, and as you can see, that's the one that'll lead you to his search engines. So you can tap, you can put in there, type anything you want, happiness, sad, trying to sleep better, weight, the list is endless. He's got hundreds of them. Or quickly go to this one, Tap with Brad. See how it says crisis on the end, where he's got them categorized in crises. They're very, very good. There's a reason I want you to go through that and see what I'm talking about. It's very quickly learned. Once again, leading you to the experts. Go there. So once again from chapter 3, stacking. Just as surely as negativity can bombard our lives and ruin it, we can take control of our lives. We can stack the positive to counteract the negative. And likewise from chapter 3, remember the story I told you about where I was being greatly affected by an emotion triggered from the hippocampus, where the amygdala was driving my bus. I was out in the middle of traffic in Seattle ready to smash this guy in a tuxedo. So I was using that as an example. So as you catch yourself reacting to a situation that's totally out of place, because these are part of our fight or flight system in our body. The hippocampus is its own memory just for the amygdala. Many things go into effect in there. Cortisol. Tapping actually lowers cortisol levels. Adrenaline might not be needed if we're sitting in a dinner and somebody makes a loud noise behind us. So as you have that happen to you, start tapping. And I'll show you here in just a minute. And after you've watched these videos, and you'll see it quickly diminish. I've had people like explain EFT over dinner that just showed them the bare minimums. That you start at the top of the head, work your way down, and go to different places of the body. And that's all they did. Because that's all the story that they had. And I saw them months later, and they said, I want to thank you, it worked really well. I'd hope they'd go to a greater depth and see more that you can learn from it. So what he refers to as psychological reversal, and they give you a very, very brief description of the process of EFT or emotional freedom techniques. So first, defining the problem. This is if you're sitting at home. So give it an intensity rating of 0 being, that's nothing, and 10 where that's horrific. Before you start on an EFT session, give yourself a rating of where it is, 5, 6, 8, 9, whatever it may be. And then the affirmation step. And you'll see, I want you to watch a bunch of those videos and you'll see a pattern there. So as you're tapping, so I could have used this in my traffic. I'm stuck in traffic and this guy gives me the finger. So I could have been, even though this guy has just given me the finger, and I'm pissed, I'm about ready to explode. Then you come in with these phrases, and there's a numerous list of them. I totally, completely love, honor, and accept myself. and go through it 3 times. So even though this guy just gave me a finger and I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to kick this guy's blank. I totally, completely love, honor, and accept myself. You can even put one of my favorite ones that I've done is you find out what they can do for children. And even though, whatever you just want to describe, I'm angry or sad or whatever, I'm having this war experience, I totally and completely love, honor, and accept myself because I'm an awesome kid. That's one of my favorite ones to use because I was an awesome kid. I don't know if I ever heard it. Next, the sequence. You'll see by watching the videos, so you're tapping. You're starting with the affirmation. These all have Chinese names. They're just 1,000 meetings, Heaven's Gate. And you'll see as they're tapping, these are all acupressure points. So you're tapping them. You'll see somebody out there, this one, feel around up to your upper chest muscle sometime. Roll your thumbs around and see if there's an area that's tight or almost painful there. I marvel at it. Almost all of us have a drawn up or a tension there. And then lastly, they're under the arms. So the dialogue that they're using, that's where the expertise that I want you to see by watching multiple videos. This is where, in my opinion, NLP comes in, where you're talking to the subconscious, what you're trying to reverse. They're very, very wise at it. It's English, and yet the mannerism in which the subconscious has a greater understanding is profound. Then, if you're doing a section, obviously out in traffic, I'm not going to do this, but then what is your results? So re-rate yourself after going through a sequence or a session. What am I now? Am I still a 10 or am I down to an 8? And you can go back through it again. You're keeping track of your diminishment. Is there a wrong way to do EFT? I had to laugh. I saw it in the book. One of them, the only wrong way is to not do it at all. You remember that? These things will really help you. I wouldn't be wasting your time with it if I knew it couldn't. In conclusion, the date, June 6, 1896, was 60 gallons of water, a sextant, that's all I had back then, a compass, some food, mainly canned meat. Their life belts were made out of reindeer leather and their lifelines were 3 fathoms. All you fishermen know 6 foot to a fathom, so 18 feet they had them. They were lashed to the boat. Their names, George Harbaugh and Frank Samuelson. They rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. They left New York City and they rowed to Great Britain, 55 days. It took 114 years for a group of 4 to beat their record. I marvel at it. Think of the faith that those men had to row across the Atlantic Ocean. Don't you think, in a way, we can all do that? If you get nothing out of these talks, I want you to know your power is unlimited. You are limitless. You came to Earth to find that out. While rowing across your ocean of life, use these life-saving techniques. They will help you arrive at your destination. They're tried and they're tested. Prove me herewith by doing. Live. Live with honor.